Time for Prime Business with me, Emma Davis. Let's settle for the details. Inflation for the month of May has decreased to 23.1%. This represents a decline of 1.95 percentage points from that of the month of April, which was at 25%. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, food inflation declined by 4.2% to hit 22.6%, while non-food inflation increased to 23.6%. Here's government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina-Eni.
In the month of May 2024, the Consumer Price Index stood at 220.0 relative to 178.7 the same time 2023. In May 2024, the headline Consumer Price Index stood at 220.0 relative to 178.7. Given these relative indices, year-on-year inflation for the month of May 2024 was 23.1%. This literally means that between May 2023 and May 2024, prices of goods and services went up by 23.1%. Prices of goods and services between the month of May 2023, a year on to the month of May 2024, went up by 23.1%. This indicates a slowdown of 1.9 percentage points relative to the year-on-year inflation that was recorded in the month of April 2024. In the month of April 2024, year-on-year inflation stood at 25.0, indicating a 0.8 percentage point drop relative to the figure that was recorded in March 2024, and we've seen for the second consecutive time a drop in the year-on-year inflation by 1.9 percentage points to the current year-on-year inflation for May 2024 standing at 23.1%. On a month-on-month basis, given the index of 220.0 for May 2024 relative to April 2024 index of 213.3, month-on-month inflation for May 2024 was 3.2%, simply indicating that between April 2024 and May 2024, prices of goods and services went up by 3.2%. This 3.2% that we've recorded for the month of May 2024 is a rise from 1.8% that was recorded in April 2024 to 3.2% for May 2024.
Meanwhile, finance professor at Andrews University, Williams Pepra, is projecting a further drop in inflation in the coming months. He spoke on Marketplace earlier today.
If we look at what has happened from May 2023 to May 2024, we can see that the rate of growth or the speed that prices in Ghana or items in Ghana were going up has reduced. It does not mean that prices are not going up. Prices are going up, but not at that speed that it were in May 2023. So in May 2023, around 42.2% and now dropping to 23.1%. Even if you look at April 2024, we see a 1.9% drop. So this is a point to, a form of ensuring economic stability. However, based on the targets set by the government of Ghana, inflation should go down a little bit. And in my perspective, this has been the trend for Ghana. Between April, May, June, July, we see inflation dropping. All because we have the food basket. That's the time we have some kind of food commodities on the market. The impact of the cost of transport, if you look at the data, has not significantly affected a lot of items. If you look at it, though local production or produce inflation went up by 24.7%, and the imported one reduced. So in terms of the real impact of the transportation, if you ask me, it's going to reflect in prices from June, July thereafter. Just a 1 month interval, we will not see the real impact. I'm sure within the month of June, I've seen some posts going up with some food items being increased like 300% and 150%. And let's wait and see what will be the inflation figure. But the anticipation is that probably inflation may peak maybe from somewhere June, July, September thereafter. That is where we will really see the impact of the increase in.
Still on inflation, lecturer at the Department of Crop Science at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Kwejo Amwa, says food prices are likely to reduce. Speaking on Market Business Live earlier, he explained that despite a rise in transport fares, its impacts will not significantly affect food.
It's not only transportation cost that is that has been added to the food prices. There are other factors. If you have realized, let me give you a typical example. Now, the seeds of tomatoes that we were buying at 85 cedis some time ago, we are now buying that one at 195 Ghana cedis. Cabbage seeds that we were buying around 150 Ghana cedis, now we are buying it at 350 Ghana cedis because these things are imported. And because the dollar is on the rise, definitely it is going to affect input cost. And if farmers realize input costs, they will definitely add it to the cost of food they are selling in the market. Market women also add it. So there are different dynamics to this. It's not only transportation, but other factors like the inputs they are using, like seeds, like fertilizers, are also on the rise. So definitely it can affect it. One thing is that from March ending, most Ghanaian farmers have started production. So before you realize by July, by the end of July, most of these crops are going to be in glats in the market. So we are going to have peppers, garden eggs, and all that in the market. And when these foods are in a glats, definitely prices decreases. Everybody wants to sell it and go home, so they decrease the price, and then so definitely it will go down. But if we still have increase of fuel that will affect the transportation costs, definitely it is still going to be decreased, but we are not going to have an appreciative decrease. So it is true that we should expect decline because those who started cultivating in March, by the end of March or early April, by July they will start harvesting. And there are some of them that will last about 3 months, will last about 4 months. They will start harvesting them very soon. So prices of food will generally go down, irrespective of transportation costs being increased.
Dr. Kwejo Amwa is an agronomist. Away from inflation, the Institute of Economic Affairs is calling on government to establish an independent fiscal council to promote sustainable economic management. At a media briefing in Accra today, the Director of Research at the IEA, Dr. John Kwache, emphasized that this council would serve as a crucial watchdog over the nation's fiscal policy.
The Institute of Economic Affairs has strongly advocated for the establishment of an independent fiscal council in Ghana. According to the Director of Research at the IEA, Dr. John Kwache, this move will help the nation achieve its fiscal target in the medium to long term.
You need these, frameworks in place such that you create a certainty with regards to fiscal policy. And then the kind of discipline that you also need. And then also, you see, you have some goals, macroeconomic goals. And if you put these, rules in place, the framework in place, they will help you to best achieve those targets, those goals that you have in mind. If in the absence of the rules and the framework, you are likely to, miss those targets, and then it creates all kinds of problems for you. That's macroeconomic instability in various forms. And that is why you need to hem fiscal policy within some kind of rules. And then you create an oversight framework also for it.
Dr. Kwache further highlights the challenges of the current fiscal rules.
See, there's an expenditure rule in the form of the Appropriations Act. The Parliament sets a ceiling. Well, they approve the expenditure for the government for the year. So it's like a ceiling. You get me? That's how much government can spend. So if they were to monitor it closely, then it means that's an expenditure rule already. But It is because they don't monitor it, and often there's overrun, and nobody is held responsible. Nobody is sanctioned for it, and so it occurs with that kind of impunity. So we are saying that, in fact, Parliament should also, make sure that they enforce the Appropriations Act.
He emphasized that an independent fiscal council could have shielded the economy from seeking IMF bailouts.
I don't think that, things would have gotten so bad. Because you have a rule in place, and if somebody is also helping to make sure, monitor that you obey the rules, okay, you won't have this excessive borrowing, excessive deficits, and the consequences, macroeconomic instability, and so you get into a problem where the international market is challenging your policy credibility. Okay, so when you get to that point, no matter what you try to do, even if you inform the markets that I am going to undertake the most severe fiscal adjustments, they may not even believe you. So they'll say, I'll go to the IMF. The IMF will impose that kind of discipline on you, and then we can be sure that you will conform. But
the IEA argued that creating a fiscal council would be a critical reform measure, serving as an independent oversight body and providing unbiased analysis and recommendations on fiscal policy.
In the meantime, the IMF will in the coming days set a date to meet on Ghana's second program review and approve some $360 million for the country. This was after the Official Creditor Committee formally informed the IMF about the debt restructuring deal reached with Ghana. There's more in the following report.
Joy Business is learning that the Official Creditor Committee, in an email, formally communicated to the IMF about this development and the impact on the whole debt restructuring and sustainability going forward. Now, based on this development, Ghana has now met all the conditions needed for the IMF board to meet on the country and approve the second tranche funding to government. The fund was initially looking at financing assurance from these bilateral creditors, but it looks like the IMF now has more than what they were even looking forward to aid this meeting on the country. This development will also trigger other donor funding for Ghana in the coming days.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam is optimistic about Ghana's second review to be approved by the Executive Board of the IMF. According to him, Ghana has met all requirements, which is crucial for its approval by the board.
As far as the effect of this agreement is concerned, I earlier mentioned the disbursement that the IMF will make after the board meeting this June. The board is going to meet this June. I'm not able to tell you the specific date the board will be sitting. I believe if you follow the IMF website, you will see the advertisement of the meeting date. I haven't seen it yet, but certainly before they meet, they always advertise the date. But I'm very confident that the board will meet this June and consider our second review. And so once the board approves our second review, we're very confident they will approve our second review because we've met all the requirements that we have to meet. The last hurdle I mentioned was the agreement we needed to reach with the official bilateral creditors, which also has now been achieved. And so we do not anticipate any challenges as far as the approval of our second review. And therefore, the expected disbursement of $360 million will certainly boost our reserves. You know the implications of increasing reserves for the strengthening of our currency.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam says work on some critical stalled infrastructure projects will soon resume.
Secondly, We also expect disbursement for stalled projects, which I talked about earlier, to also resume. I'm not able to tell you exactly when. Some have indicated that they will start disbursement immediately. Others want to wait for us to sign the bilateral agreements, which we hope to do in the next few weeks or months. So that will also come in to boost our reserves, and you know the implications of increasing reserves for the currency.
The World Bank, in its latest Global Economic Prospects report, has forecast a GDP growth rate of 2.9% for Ghana in 2024. This is 0.1 percentage points higher than government's target of 2.8% in the 2024 budget presented by the Finance Minister. The following report has more.
According to the World Bank, growth in sub-Saharan Africa is projected to pick up from 3% in 2023 to 3.5% in 2024 and about 4% annually in 2025 and 2026 as fading inflationary pressures allow for interest rate cuts. This is expected to support private consumption and investment. Growth in the region's largest three economies, namely Nigeria, South Africa, and Angola, is expected to accelerate from 1.8% in 2023 to 2.4% in 2024 and an average of 2.6% in 2025 to 2026. On Ghana, the World Bank forecasts a GDP growth of 2.9% in 2024, 4.4% in 2025, and 4.9% in 2026. It's however warned that risks to the outlook are tilted to the downside. Downside risks include increasing global geopolitical tensions, especially an escalation of the conflict in the Middle East. In addition, it's warned that consumer price inflation could prove to be stickier than expected or pick up again, driven, for example, by food price inflation caused by supply disruptions.
President Akufo-Addo today joined other African presidents to kickstart discussions on how to improve trade in the region and develop homegrown payment systems. This is happening in the Bahamas, where the African Export and Import Bank is holding its annual general meetings, as well as the third Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. Here's more from George Wiafe, who is covering for us.
The African Export and Import Bank, AfriEXIM, is an African multilateral institution created to finance and promote trade within and outside Africa. It currently provides funding for trade and other project initiatives, as well as sovereign and syndicated loans for several African countries. It is currently owned by African governments, the African Development Bank, and other private investors. The bank is currently financing some projects and other initiatives totaling $1.7 billion for Ghana. However, this support could go up further as Ghana is negotiating fresh support from the bank. The country currently chairs the Shareholders and Advisory Group, and the Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, Abnasi Asare, is leading government delegation, and she will be leading some of these discussions and negotiations on these facilities, as well as the fresh support for Ghana.
Now, the German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Krul, has urged Ghanaians to use audit service reports to hold duty bearers accountable. This, he says, will lead to transparent financial management and enhance the trust of people. The ambassador said this at the commissioning of an ultra-modern regional office of the Audit Service at Koforidua in the Eastern Region. Kofi Sian reports.
The new edifice is among two other regional offices in the Central and Volta regions funded by the German government. It will strengthen the structures of the Audit Service and enhance the execution of its constitutional mandate. Speaking at the official inauguration, the German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Krul, urged Ghanaians to ensure duty bearers follow the rules of transparency.
The reports that are produced by this institution, it is about what is done with these observations and recommendations that are put on paper. And this does not depend on the audit service alone, but this depends on any citizen of this country. So Only if you decide to hold your members of parliament, your municipalities accountable and use these reports to make sure that they follow the rules of transparency, then the Ghana Audit Service will be very, very successful for the progress and the prosperity of the people in Ghana.
The Auditor General, Johnson Ekuamoesiedu, lauded the President for increasing the Audit Service's annual budget, which he says has enabled them to renovate some of the offices.
This reality has been due to the massive support of the government to the Audit Service in our determination to help curb the menace of corruption. Your Excellency, since assuming office as President of the Republic of Ghana, you have steadfastly increased our annual budget, and this is what has made it possible for us to renovate a number of Government of Ghana funded office projects that were abandoned in between the year 2010 and 2012.
The Eastern Regional Minister, Seth Echampon, who read a speech on behalf of President Akufo-Addo, urged public institutions to cooperate with the Audit Service and ensure compliance with audit recommendations to improve public financial management.
As we commission this facility today, I urge all public institutions and officers in the Eastern region to cooperate fully with the Audit Service. Compliance with audit recommendations is essential for improving public sector performance and achieving the desired outcomes of our development agenda. Government remains committed to supporting the Audit Service in its efforts to improve public financial management. We will continue to provide the necessary resources and support to ensure that the service can operate independently and effectively.
Meanwhile, government has secured funding for the construction of additional regional and district offices for the Audit Service across the country. From Koforidua in the Eastern region, Kofi Sian reporting for Joy News.
That's it for Prime Business tonight. I am Emma Davis. For more business news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. I leave you with international business. Good night.